You can see it. Can you? It'll take 30 seconds. There's a slight delay. Yeah, it should be. Good to go. You're good to go, Mayor.
All right, welcome to the October 8th North Logan City Council meeting. We will excuse Buzzy and Joni tonight. They're both away for work. We'll start tonight with a pledge led by Mark, after which Kenny will give us the prayer.
Please stand with me. Start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we can meet here this evening as a city council here in North Logan, and we are grateful for the moisture that Thou hast blessed us with recently and for the great need that it meets here in this valley. And we ask that please bless it as we go through the agenda items this evening, that we can be thoughtful and considerate of the items at hand, and that we can debate and consider the different perspectives on these items and make decisions that are wise and that are to the benefit of our community and all the members therein. We're grateful that we can live in such a beautiful area with such great neighbors and citizens here that support each other and serve each other. And we say this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you both. All right, let's start by adopting tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Let's recognize our Employee Leadership Award. Tonight that is for Ashlyn Murray and Sophie Bowden. They were nominated by Jesse Howe, who says, Ashlyn Murray and Sophie Bowden came through in the clutch the other day when we faced a sudden twist in our murder mystery dinner. Our original hosts couldn't make it. With sharp wits and quick thinking, they dove into the complex mystery and ensured the evening went off without a hitch. Their willingness to step in at a moment's notice and keep the story alive made them the true stars of the night, detectives extraordinaire in their own right. Just a note that if you guys ever need any murder mystery person, I've been listening to Dateline faithfully forever, so I could also pinch it. Been preparing my whole life for this. Anyway, we appreciate Ashlyn and Sophie, and please join me in giving them a round of applause. All right, let's start with our reports from our public safety officials. Chief Goodrich, you start.
No, not a whole lot to report tonight. Just kind of give you a general update of where we're at. First off, we have one of our officers, Officer North, who successfully completed his field training. So he's on his own now, which is a good return on the investment that we put in for that. So we're excited about what he brings and what he offers. And we have one who's in the academy who graduates in a month, month and a half here in November. And then he'll be a quick FTO, and so we'll have that. In addition to that, this week we've interviewed 6. We have extended an offer to 1, and I'm waiting on callbacks from another on that to fill our vacant position. So we're that close to being fully staffed, which is
That's a big feat.
That's huge for the PD. So I'm grateful for that. This week we had a busy week. We had 100 calls total. 81 of those were out of North Logan, and 19 were in Hyde Park on that. The majority of those, as far as priority calls, were accidents. We had 9 accidents, 1 drug case, 1 child abuse, and then 14 medicals. It seems like we always end up with a lot of medicals during the week. And then 6 suspicious incidents where they had break-ins or in their cars or burglaries on things like that on the outside of their property there. Last thing I wanted to talk about was the e-motorcycle update. This last Tuesday, I had an opportunity to work with a legislative group, and it came down to everybody is seeing the need for it. And what they're trying to decide now is really the logistics of the enforcement of how the chiefs and the sheriffs and the communities want to see the enforcement happen. And so they've called in some more partners to work with that, and we're having another meeting at the end of the month here. They've asked for the juvenile justice to have representatives there since they'll be the ones that are prosecuting that and helping with that, if citations were to be part of that. But there are some good discussions going on about possible options. Things like the chance maybe of having a digital license that is issued to the kids. And if they are stopped for reckless behavior, they have points that accrue. And then when it comes time, when they turn 16 to get their actual license, that prevents them from obtaining the license. The majority of what I'm hearing is that if the kids are being safe, they're open to having them ride the vehicles, riding them on the roads. They just don't want to see the reckless behavior, which is, I think, the same boat that we're trying to do here. That's largely, as I talk with Alan about the feedback coming in from the survey, that's also the same type of a feedback that we're getting. If they're being reckless, stop them. If they don't have a helmet on, stop them, address that. But if they're just being careful, then kind of go about the business. So we're waiting to see, but I'll keep updating on that. And I'd imagine that there will be some working sessions that we have with that.
Are you looking, is this also discussing like an education component with it? Or is it really mainly just enforcement?
No, but the biggest point, the enforcement is the smaller half of that, or the smaller part of that. The education is the bigger component to it. A lot of what we hear back is the parents don't know. I didn't know my kid couldn't do that. I didn't know that we couldn't send him down the road like that. So there's a huge, huge education component to this that they're trying to figure out how best to manage with that.
I think that's great. It also informs our discussions here, you know, what we do on the city level. So appreciate your work and your representation on that board.
Thank you. Well, any questions?
I had received a couple emails about those break-ins on vehicles. Any progress in those investigations?
Not yet. They're still compiling everything, and it was through Hyde Park as well. So they've kind of, it seems like it gets cold and they get into mischief again with that. So we haven't had any breaks yet on it.
Thank you.
Okay,
you.
thanks,
Thanks,
Chief.
Chief.
All right, Chief Thompson.
Hello. Just a real quick rundown for last month. Looks like we had 77 calls for service with 144 unit responses for September. And actually for the year, we are literally within one call of where we were at last year at this time. So, you know, things seem to be pretty steady there. So, a couple things I wanted to just give you an update on. We do have our Assistant Chief of VMS is retiring, Rod Tompkinson, 25 years here as our, you know, at some capacity at the fire department. So we're excited for him. We will probably select in-house on that. We've got excellent candidates at the battalion chief level. So that'll happen pretty quickly. His official day is December 1st. So we'll keep you posted in case you know, we'll have a nice open house for Haas. He's done us a excellent job representing the EMS side of things. Additionally, since we met last, we went out to RFP for the EMS system. It was posted for the week. We did receive a no bid from AMR, the National Ambulance System that we thought we might hear from, which gave them an opportunity to see our system up and close, right? With our RFP, it's very detailed of what the system is. You know, for now, they submitted a no bid, which is great with us. We were the only official proposal. And so obviously we would have been accepted with that. So we'll move forward October 21st. We'll do that public presentation in the Logan City Municipal Council meeting. It'll be at the beginning. I did share that information with the mayor and Alan so that you had the RFP and the proposal and the time to do that. And if you want me to come do that same proposal here, if that time doesn't work, you just let me know. I'll be happy to share that proposal. It's good information, you know, educationally to see how the system works and so maybe some detail there that we don't, you know, get to talk about very often. So we're looking good there. Met with Scott Parks today and kind of reviewed the House Bill 48, the exciting, you know, wild and urban interface situation. I think we've got some things squared away there. We'll just kind of wait and see. We're going to watch and see if we see that magical state map. Kind of clarified a few things with the significance of what's tied to that new law. And I thought Scott brought up a great point. I think it's important just to reiterate that doing a North Logan map and accepting the 2006 fire code, those two things are required to stay in compliance with the CWS program, which is that cooperative wildfire system that the state runs, which essentially is our That's basically our insurance for fires that may start in city limits and move into the Forest Service. So it's the system that protects us from the fire we had this year. That's the one that pays for that. So it is, they have tied it to that system to keep you compliant. The state map that's coming that has fees and things associated with it, when we see that, we see that. We just want to make sure our cities are protected. So we had a good review on that. We'll keep you posted, and we'll be working on an ordinance and hold it, hopefully ready to go as soon as maybe we see more info from the state. So
Yeah, and thanks for your work with Representative Snyder,
you bet.
I think it's been huge to feel like we have a voice. So we really appreciate your efforts on behalf of North Logan.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, and well done to the mayor. She certainly, got some attention there to make sure everyone's talking and communicating what the intent was. So, yeah, so we'll keep you posted as we
Okay.
hear more things. So, thank you. Unless
Thanks,
there's other
Chief.
questions. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Alan, will you go over the strategic directives and action items?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We'll talk about the community center coming up at the end of the meeting. One big thing to announce is the website is up and running. It's the same address, so northlogancity.gov. We do have a new website. It still has some quirks, things that we need to work out as far as information on there, but it is an upgrade. It is easy to use, both for a mobile and for just on your desktop. So we're excited about that as well. Going down through the master signage and wayfinding plan, we'll probably do interviews in the coming weeks. The committee's kind of scored a few of the different projects, but we'll do interviews after that. Jumping down through water, I don't want to steal. I don't know if he's here. Jordan's probably here. He shouldn't be. He's been awake since 9 last night or 8 last night. They started pouring at that time, went through the entire night, pouring the floor of the reservoir up there near Green Canyon. So hats off to him and his crew. It's a successful pour for the base of that. But he'll give you other updates as regarding water at the end of the meeting. Sewer, we are doing some of our cleaning right now, looking at rehabbing one of our lift stations, and the other lift station trying to work with Hyde Park to see if we can work out a deal to where we can remove that lift station, which would be ideal. Looking through here, streets, they're working on 2 major streets projects right now, a Cemetery Road construction at a portion where our home's been built, and then Naomi Drive, still working on that, wrapping that up. 2 major projects, and hats off to them for helping out with those. The Naomi Drive especially, clearing up an issue that's been there for 20 years. Stormwater, they've done their annual report. And now they're working on just general fall cleanup. They'll start going very intensive on that in the coming weeks. Engineering 2850 North, that's the project down there by Rush, comes out to Main Street, just west of Main Street. That's been completed, and then they've paved that, and then the frontage along Main Street for the deceleration and acceleration lane, which will be a great addition to that area and help with economic development throughout that area. 1200 East is slated to be paved the first week of November. And so they're still pushing ahead with that date. The road is all basically prepped for paving at any time. It's the bridge component that they're still trying to work out. So they still have that date in place, and so hopefully that does take place. So our trunk line, sorry to go over each of these, but we are working with Logan on that. It goes through a subdivision in Logan that's going in, and so we'll probably put in a portion of that coming up, and then they'll finalize the bond to put in the rest of that in the coming months. Parks, they're extremely busy putting in the pumpkin walk components. The rec usually handles a lot of the other pumpkin days. Parks helps out with the pumpkin walk, prepping for the 60,000 people who will be coming to our community, and all the other events throughout the entire month. We'll go over that at the end of the meeting and all the different events. But just to point out, this Saturday is the pumpkin run, the fun run, and the pumpkin hole, which is the cornhole tournament. So those will be both this Saturday. Going down through some of these other projects, the BST, we'll continue working on that. Sunrise is helping us out with one of the alignment, and then also the grant for the canal trail just south of the city offices here that we received. Again, recreation, They've got several different recreation programs going on right now, obviously very large programs, handling things throughout the city, and basically for the entire valley right now, for recreation. Trees, the cemetery, they're just working on trees and again, helping out with a few things there. They'll probably work on the shed in the coming months. Community development, they have several projects coming up, and Scott will go through those at the end of the meeting. Jumping down through, we'll go over our audit. Thanks to Scott and Vicky and Karen and Debbie for going through the audit. We'll have that report probably in the next 3 weeks regarding our annual audit. I understand it went well. I always hope that it goes well, but each year Scott and his crew do a fantastic job to make sure that we're prepared for that. And then the library, they've got Trent's put together a fantastic plan to keep the library operational. Each week it becomes a little bit more difficult. How to logistically keep the library up and running as they remodel the interior of the library after they finish this new portion. But he's got things wrapped up. The other departments from Public Works will come and help with some of that aspect. So, and Trent's coordinating that. So thanks to he and Jordan in that process. And thanks to Police and Fire for their updates.
This is a little bit of a spoiler from our Utah League of Cities and Towns takeaways, a consent agenda. So we only have one item in there, but in the future, I guess we can kind of take a stab of at how we do it. Does anyone have anything from the consent items that they'd like to move to a discussion? If not, I would call for a vote to approve the consent agenda items. Okay, motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Emily. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You guys, we did it. Great job. Okay, let's move on to current action items. We will start with consider approving the acceptance of a bid to purchase surplus property located at 2820 North Canyon Ridge Drive. You gonna go over this one, Alan?
I can roughly go over it. Scott may need to help me a little bit, but I'll give the overview. Several weeks ago, City Council approved the declaration of surplus property for basically we call it the dugout house, the hillside up there with just a footing and foundation in place in Canyon Ridge Phase 3. After the city declared that surplus, the city went out to bid on that, notifying the surrounding property owners and then putting it on the website and Facebook and notifying the area regarding that property being available for bid. And that's the second step in that process. The third step is the acceptance of the bids. Unfortunately, we only received one bid on the property by the deadline, which was this last week. And so if you go into the folder, you'll see the actual bid. However, when we went out to invitation to bid, based off the feedback from the city council and Scott Perks, they put together a very good list. Things that maybe we fell short on in specifying what needed to take place with the lot. And those things were, the lot will need to be restored, filled in, whether it's engineered fill or filled to cover the existing foundation, or they can remove the existing foundation. Either way, it has to be filled in as a specification. And as Mark astutely pointed out, they'll have to do that not only through a REPC, but also through a deed restriction on the land. And so we'll have to put those things in place. The buyer is aware of that. So they submitted a bid knowing these things, that the property will not be able to have any structure that requires a building permit on the property, which just leaves basically landscaping, maybe a driveway, concrete, a few other things. That's about it that you can put on this property going forward. And so you have the bid. The adjacent neighbor to the north who owns the property is the one that bid on the property. But you have that before you. And, are there any questions regarding bid or anything else?
So my only question is, it doesn't seem like there is a time constraint on the remediation of the property. I know that is that wrong?
I think in the actual solicitation, there is a timeline, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to be wrong, so
No, you're probably not wrong, but,
Is the,
I thought there was something in the solicitation that says they had to take care of it in a certain amount of time. However, we can put
It
that,
says 30 days.
I
It's
think,
not in the letter from.
to
Is it 30
finalize the purchase and remit payment.
within
I think
30
that's
days,
just
like,
a-
Oh, you're
the
talking about
payment.
the
Yeah.
remediation work.
Yeah.
I think those are types of things that we can put into the actual REPSI itself
okay.
to make sure.
That'd be great. I just think, you know,
There
I,
does need to be a deadline.
yeah, because otherwise it will never be triggered, right?
Yeah.
Like you could just be punting that for an indeterminate amount of time. So we can approve this and then add that to the REPSI.
Yep.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask Alan, even given the constraints on the lot, the bid seems pretty low.
Mhm.
I know it's the
It's-
only bid that we
It's
got,
only
but
slightly lower than what we had estimated the value of the property, so.
I guess my question was going to be, we do have the liberty to deny the bid and then reopen it for bids in the future, or what what actions are we able to take at this point?
Accept the bid or deny the bid.
And then
But
if we deny it,
that
what
would just
happens?
defer it. I don't actually know.
Okay.
Well,
because
you would just have to go through the process
have to
again,
go through the process again.
hoping that you get a different response.
Yeah, okay.
It was open for 30 days?
I think it was 30 days. Yeah, it was roughly 30 days that it was open.
I'll be honest with you, I was kind of surprised we got a bid. But I'm not surprised it's either the person who gave us the bid happens to be a next door neighbor to this property, especially when they ask, they understand all the rules that we're putting in on them. I don't know, it feels pretty fair to me.
And
it-
they can make the best usage of the property, to be honest.
Quite frankly, especially when they said a possible request for approval would be lighted pickleball court, which I don't see as a problem. Like, we even discussed that as a potential option there.
So this bidder does own the parcel to the north, but it has yet to be developed also, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We would put, it isn't in here, but if this person, we went in for the REPSI and we're like, hey, you have to do this by X date, would that allow them to back out of this deal? I'm just curious. Could they,
Absolutely, they're not
Okay.
obligated.
Yeah.
okay, I'm okay if we can put a time limit on when it has to be remediated.
That's perfect. Yeah, we'll put that in there. That's something
What do you
we
think?
probably should have
Do you
had
think we can get a better
definitive.
deal? I'm like actually curious.
I don't know. I mean, I am not a land developer,
That's the other problem.
like, so I don't have a good sense for how much it being a non-buildable lot depreciates the value of the parcel, but
The other thing you
if
have
it
to
were
take into
buildable, it'd be
account,
10 times, 15
You're
times this
correct,
bid.
but
the person that put the bid in astutely pointed out that it'll take 10 to 20,000 just to fill in the actual.
10 was their estimate, yeah.
yeah.
That's with non-engineered fill.
Yeah, I think I think time is of the essence on this. I think that this is an eyesore currently, and it's a bad situation altogether. I think this is kind of the final step to just wiping the slate clean and saying, you know, let's move on from that situation. So I think, you know, unless there's something that changes, we're not likely to get a different response in the future. So,
Did the bid, the RFP that we sent out, did that go directly to all the neighbors or, okay, so,
It wasn't required, but we sent out a letter to each of the surrounding neighbors because they
Okay.
would be the most likely individuals to bid on this.
I'll also say that informally, the city, I think, has offered that option to the neighbors as well, right? Like outside of this bid process, saying, hey, you know, could we broker this sort of deal? And nothing came out of that. So unless you find a pickleball enthusiast that comes out of the woodwork and wants a pickleball court not adjacent to their property, then I think it's unlikely that this reopening the bid process will result in anything different.
yeah, you're probably right. So it's 0.87 acres. I mean, that's a steal of a deal for $10,000.
I mean,
Should have bid, should have bid.
Yeah,
I guess, but when you
right.
look at
Just-
when you look at the actual property that they can do something with at this point, It's not. It's like, you're right, it is 0.87, but there's a steep enough slope that's also included there that we have told them that they cannot touch.
Yeah, because what portion of the land's actually, like, if there weren't any restrictions, what portion of land actually is not on that hillside? Do you have a sense?
None.
Not point.
It's-
Well, there's some because there's a foundation there.
Today, you couldn't do anything on this lot.
Right, but I'm saying like, even if this were a pristine lot,
Yeah.
you just have to, you have to get a sense of how much actual buildable land there would be.
Less than 1/10 of an acre.
So that's just different. And I think
That's
you have to kind of say
And especially with all
what's,
the restrictions we put on it because we wanted to make sure nobody came and build.
Mhm.
Like I said, I was, again, surprised that we got a bid.
yeah.
So I'm okay to take it because.
What do you
we'll
think,
move it.
Mark?
If the lot to the north, this particular lot, was double the size, it would have sold for more than 20 grand more than what it sold for, but it is what it is. We've got a situation we're trying to resolve and we're moving on to more important things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd like
I
to,
can wrap my head around that.
I'm ready to make a motion if you guys are ready.
Go for it. Let's get
Okay.
a vote.
I motion that we approve the acceptance of a bid to purchase surplus property located at 2820 North Canyon Ridge Drive.
All right, motion by Emily,
Second,
second by Kenny. Any discussion
Yeah, we need to add the,
with that
Yes.
condition?
Thank you. With the condition on the Rep C, do we need to put the stipulation of exactly how long
You guys could put the stipulation.
or?
leave it to the mayor to negotiate.
Oh, good.
I guess my thought is, I don't know what is a reasonable amount to ask, especially because we're heading into October. So I
Yeah.
feel like 30 days seems like,
That's fast.
What we could do is talk with the
Yeah.
person purchasing it, depending on when they start to build. If it's too far out, like if it's 1 or 2 years or anything, 6 months, then we're just gonna have to put the stipulation in and say you've got to do it before that time. It would be ideal for them to do it when they start building, because then they can use the fill out of where they're digging,
Yeah.
even though it won't be much, because they can't dig much into the hillside now with their new ordinance, but they could use that fill to fill in the hole.
Yeah, so let's leave some flexibility in talking with the,
we'll allow the mayor as a representative of the city to negotiate that? Is that, how would I say this?
That works.
Okay, perfect. Then I said that.
okay. All right, motion by Emily, second by Kenny. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to consider authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement regarding real property along Second West and 2400 North roadways.
I'll probably just zoom to the area. Jordan might need to give a better update on this one, and sorry for putting you on the spot, Jordan, but
Not a problem.
they've been in negotiations for some time. Jordan has in helping find a resolution to this area, which is hats off to them for doing this.
So the 2400 North roadway right there that Alan's highlighting, that's that access drive back to Waste Management. When they came in, they have an agreement that they needed to widen that to make it 26 feet and drivable, all surface or all weather surface. What came out is that I can't really see what it says, WDJ, which is Wayne Daryl Anderson's property, yep, that he's got highlighted. It actually owns more property on 2400 North, so we weren't able to build that roadway. So on the west side, there's Logan City property, which was a right-of-way for the 200 West roadway. And there's an agreement placed with Logan City to purchase that property, and we would then exchange that property for the property on the 2400 North side that then Daryl Anderson Construction would foot the bill for, so that they would get the property on 200 West so that they could front the future 200 West roadway, and we would get the property on 2400 North in order to build the roadway for Waste Management would be able to build the roadway. So it's kind of just a property swap. We talked about it a year and a half ago or so. It's been a while,
I was gonna say.
but
this is bringing it back up.
but the DWA construction was not in a place where it made a lot of sense for them, but right now it does, and so they're willing to make that exchange.
Okay, questions for Jordan on this?
Remind me, is this one of those where we're just sort of the intermediary to help exchange this, but
Correct.
we're not actually going to be like losing any money, if that makes sense? Because
Yep.
it will be, okay. That's what I thought I remembered, but I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we don't own any of the property over there. It's Logan City, and the boundary line adjustment back in 2000. It didn't come to us, so it's a weird Logan City piece that they own that will be 200 West roadway. But yeah, we don't have any financial obligation to this.
Jordan, I'm sorry I missed it. What was Waste Management's stake in this?
So if you look, their building, he's got it on the screen. That's their main access out to Main Street, the 2400 North roadway. And when they put their business in there, one of their conditions for use was to make that roadway passable in all weather and 26 feet. And so they needed to do that. So they needed to pipe the ditch on 2400 North. They didn't have enough property. The right of way was not wide enough on 2400 North to do that. And so we had to get some property from DWA in order to pipe that ditch.
All right, any other questions on this? This is really great work. It's kind of just one of those headaches that has fallen into place
Yep.
through your efforts, so I appreciate that. Can I get a motion on this?
I motion that we authorize the mayor to sign an agreement regarding real property along 200 West and 2400 North roadways.
Okay, motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Kenny. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Now we will consider approving right-of-way acquisition agreements along Wolfpack Way between 1500 North and 1800 North.
I can go over this. So these are just some of the additional properties. This is our COG project for 200 East. If you can see where I'm at, I'm just east of Walmart. This is with the Skyrim Holdings, which is the pediatric dentistry. They lease those properties from this owner. And we've been working with the tenants and the property owner to figure out a solution to make sure that they can continue operating their businesses during the actual construction, which they come up with some opportunities to make sure that they can continue operating in some fashion throughout the entire project, and may only be down for, sorry, they would only have reduced parking for maybe a couple weeks. Hopefully it would be the case, maybe a month. But regardless, that would be this property right here, and then the North Point frontage along here. So that's these two agreements. And what is just a private right-of-way acquisition agreement to purchase those properties, as per the COG. The COG would be the one purchasing these properties.
Okay, this is another set of good news, just because last night, was it last night? It feels like 2 nights ago. I had to represent to the COG what kind of progress we've made on these rights of way acquisitions for Second East. So this is all great news. Any questions? Any specifics on this?
There's 2 different contracts here for 4 different pieces of property. As it references project parcel numbers, there's 2 different parcel number records in each of the attachments.
They should just be these ones. It could be additional ones, but I'm pretty sure it's just these two.
It looks like it's 114 and 114E. So,
And I see another one that says 116 and 116E. That was part of my question.
yeah, what does the letter denote?
Say that again, sorry.
Oh, I was kind of piggybacking on your question, Mark. What, like, they're the same parcel number, but with just a letter.
And those parcel numbers don't align with the parcel numbers on the GIS viewer.
It's probably,
What?
There's 114.
Oh, man.
Sorry, we can go through these numbers, but regardless, it is.
There's 2 different documents in the file, and they seem to reference.
Well, but that's the project parcel number, but not the tax ID number, and the tax ID numbers match. So I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
so tax ID,
I'd look at
parcel
the
ID
tax
are what
ID
we're,
number.
Yeah, that's really what we're looking at, not project parcel
Yes. Okay.
number.
okay. Oh, okay, so we've assigned them different numbers based on those drawings. Okay. All right. Any other questions on this? Then I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the right-of-way acquisition agreements along Wolfpack Way between 1500 North and 1800 North.
Okay, motion,
Do I need to reference the tax ID numbers as well, or?
I don't think so, as, they exist in the
In the folder.
folder. Okay. Motion by Kenny,
Second.
second by Emily. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks for your work on that. Let's consider a resolution establishing an audit committee and establishing audit committee guidelines to assist in the oversight of the internal and external audit functions of North Logan City.
Scott can help out with this, but my understanding is basically, as we've gone through the audit, and they go over hundreds of different things. We do have an internal audit committee, but it's never been formalized through resolution. And so that's what this document does for our audit. This is one thing that they pointed out that we needed to do. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this is just the formalization of an existing audit committee through resolution by the city council.
It sounds prestigious.
It's a very prestigious committee.
that in a nicer tone when the members is here?
Okay,
We have a member.
any questions on this? Okay, then I did,
So, sorry, with the council member appointment on the audit committee, is there a tenure or a duration on that, or is it just?
is this so you can put it on your resume, Kenny?
Yeah, that's right, because it is.
Is it by default me, I'm assuming?
It's your decision who goes on the committee.
Okay,
So you can
with,
have your drinks.
except
Kenny.
for-
Yeah, that's right. I have always wanted
The
to
city
see
council.
Kenny, we're gonna start
audits.
Shanny.
Yeah.
So any of you can be on it.
Okay, and I think it looks like, so who, I'm trying to look at this, who it authorizes to,
It'd be
Oh.
the city treasurer, the city
mayor.
financial officer, and one member of
Okay.
the city council.
okay,
So Scott, Debbie, and
Kenny,
Kenny.
G,
And me.
Mark,
okay.
Minimum.
Mark loves.
I vote for
auditing.
Unfortunately, Kenny, you
Second for
acted really
Kenny.
interested in it, and I'm like, I do
I
not want
should've
to.
That's a
phrased my
done
question
deal.
differently.
Well, you didn't, so.
Okay, do we have to decide on the board currently? Like, do we have to, okay,
Just it's required that they meet a minimum of twice a year to go over the audit and then to go over just before the year-end closing.
okay,
And so it just needs to be between now and December
okay.
that someone's
We'll
appointed.
duke it out.
So the scope of this committee is to review previous audits or to prepare for upcoming audits? Or both?
Assist in the oversight of
Yeah.
the current audit.
It's to oversee the audit that Aldridge Jackson will present in November.
Okay.
And then again, just before we close out in June.
Okay,
Make
Okay.
sure we did what we're supposed to.
then I would entertain a motion on this.
So moved.
Was that Mark?
Yes.
Motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Kenny. Any other discussion? Then we'll do a roll call vote. Mark,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Have we changed Second East to Wolfpack Way in that area yet? The name of the road?
I'm trying to think.
On Google Maps, it doesn't show that we have, but the resolution calls it Wolfpack Way. I don't know if we need to address that.
Google, I wouldn't reference it based off of Google. It'd be
I just
more
don't know. I
trust-
don't remember seeing the change. And so if we need, the resolution references Wolfpack Way.
Parcel viewer does show it as Wolfpack Way.
Yeah, it should be Wolfpack Way all the way from North Logan's boundary to North Logan's, south boundary to north boundary.
And it references 200 East in the contract. So that seems to be
They're
correct. I
synonymous.
just didn't know if we'd changed it.
Yeah, it should be
I
changed,
like the
but
name.
either way.
Wolfpack City.
It's a good one. Okay, let's consider approval of North Logan City's Community Wildfire Preparedness Plan.
So, sorry, this probably should have been a consent item. The reason being it's not a formal resolution. However, all this is this is a portion of the city's emergency preparedness plan. I shouldn't say all this is because it took some preparation through our emergency preparedness committee, meeting with officials from Cache County and especially Logan City with their fire department to go over and prepare this plan. And what it does is it just provides guidelines for emergency preparedness. The more intensive details would come through what Chief has described in the meetings. And so we will look at that. But yes, this is just a component of the emergency preparedness. Again, this probably should have been a consent item because it doesn't have actionable items associated with it.
We just added a north to North Logan City Green Canyon Water Treatment Plant.
It was just the Logan City Green Canyon Water Treatment Plant. Didn't know they built up there.
This was prepared by both cities, so there's going to be some errors there. Thank you
No,
for
I-
catching that.
You know me, I want to make sure that north is in there.
Yeah, okay.
Get those
Um,
taxes.
Yeah.
The South North Logan.
You know what? It was really nice of us to work with South North Logan. I really
Yep.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Use Cache County.
all right. Any other questions or changes? Then I would entertain a motion.
I do have one question, and this is maybe something that I know we're talking about that wooey line a lot. Is this at all, like,
This isn't associated with that.
okay,
one.
I just wanted to make sure because it had the wildland urban interface, and
Yeah.
I didn't see any mention of the line in there, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
That will come before the city council though in the coming weeks.
okay.
okay. Any other questions or do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, motion by Mark,
Second,
second by Emily. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Let's go on to our work session items. Let's start with lessons learned at the Utah League of Cities and Towns Conference. Emily, do you want to start?
yeah, absolutely. One of the things I thought was the most interesting was that there was a lot of scalable lessons that everyone I went into, they acknowledged that bigger cities can spend more money and that smaller cities can't. The two things that I took away from it is there's a couple of things I think we can do to make a more cohesive communication strategy. And a simple one they suggested, and I thought this was, I'd love to see us do that to clear our identity, especially on social media, is to make sure the font matches for every, like, Parks and Rec font or Parks font is different than Recreation font, which is different than like a font for whatever fire message. And when they were showing examples, I went, oh, that is incredibly clear. Because one thing I think we do well is we make sure our logo's on there. But sometimes the logo isn't always very obvious. So when I was looking through like our feed, I could see somebody scrolling and not realizing they're looking at North Logan. And I want whatever comes up for people to see it and identify like that is a North Logan post. So it was also nice to be with a bunch of people who were like, how many people do you have working on your social media? And they were like half because they had an intern. And that's what I put as well. We have like an intern. So it was nice, simple stuff like that. And then the other thing I thought was really good is Provo City and Spanish Fork talk about city academies and they run them on like nothing. They don't spend a ton of money, but they have citizens who want to learn how the city works go through like, they do like 8 weeks. I don't think we should do 8 weeks, but basically sort of what we do with be a streets employee for the day. They kind of do that. They meet with the department heads. They kind of understand how the city works a little bit. And I thought that would be really good because we have a lot of citizens who care.
So they just do that on a rotating couple years.
They do it, so Spanish Fork
times a
and
year.
Provo do it, I want to say twice a year, and they said that they don't want to do it more than that. Park City also discussed theirs, but theirs was so insane that I took nothing from their $130,000 a year yearly thing that they go to Reno and Tahoe on a city tour. Anyway, we could go to Logan, I guess.
So 2-hour evening sessions once a week for 10 weeks, is that?
That's kind of how they
Wow.
did. They made a commitment though. So and this is how they kind of, if they thought people would come in to be somewhat troublemakers or like just there to like, I'm just going to tell the city how
Yeah.
terrible they are. They were like, okay, you have to come to 8 of them, 8 of the 10, you have to commit to it. But there's potential. I definitely don't think we need to do that extensive, but it might be good for us to look into doing something.
I think it'd be great. I think that's kind of a transparency thing. I think it's good for like just helping people understand. I think that happens a lot of times with being on the council. You start to understand like now when people like my husband complain about chip seal, I can say, look, here's what's behind that because we've talked about it at length with Colby. So I like that idea. Is that all you had?
I mean, I talked about the missing middle housing, which we really are addressing quite well in our general plan. But one thing that they said that I found incredibly interesting is in Pleasant Grove, they have like patio units, some are like 55 plus, next to condos that were 3,000, not condos, townhomes on top of like a commercial space, but the townhomes are 3,000 square feet. And I was like, what the? And so, yeah, they were talking about how like they have ones that are more affordable and then they have them mixed in with ones that are definitely more expensive, and they found that to be incredibly helpful. So I was surprised because 3,000 square foot, I mean, 3 separate people asked to clarify, like you said 3,000 square feet, because that's insane.
So that integration was helpful in what regard?
Well, what they liked about it is by having all of this, they had, weirdly enough, they had far more like newly retired, I guess is what you would call them. They're not officially seniors. They really enjoyed living there, being a part of the community and having something for their grandkids, space for everyone to come visit, but then also something for their grandkids to do. And they liked the mix of having the mixed generations, because when you have more affordable, like they found that it was really successful in integrating communities. But one thing they did suggest, it always has to have an economic component. It has to have some sort of commercial space or it really just doesn't take off. And it was an interesting idea. I was surprised. I wrote down 3,000. I was like, no way. So I did look it up and there is one for sale and it's nice. I'd live there.
And not the lot's 3,000, but the building's 3,000.
Well, so, and this is where, from my understanding, the commercial space is not included as a part of it. Like the commercial space is separated from the townhomes that are on top of it. And so they have a lot of people who are like, I don't want a yard anymore, but I still want to have like a big enough house to host Thanksgiving. And it just so happens that somebody's running like a little community grocery store. You know what I mean? Like, I was surprised by how well it was integrated. Like it looked really nice. It was something to think about at least.
Okay.
Sorry, it's far more than 2 minutes.
No, that was good. Mine are pretty brief. You kind of got a preview of the consent agenda. I think in the long term, that will really move things along that we don't need to talk about, like that are not contentious and that are pretty, we have the opportunity beforehand, for example, with the meeting minutes to make our adjustments to that without discussing them specifically. I think part of that is making sure everyone has access and time to review the materials well before council, but that is something I think it just kind of will move our meetings along. I kept hearing over and over that, having events with legislators helps you so that when you're in a conversation with them and that they're more apt to listen to you on issues that affect the city if you have a relationship outside of just city business. And I think that was true definitely with Casey Snyder, where we were getting, more and more concerned about this WUI line and the attendant fees. And I think it was really helpful at some point to say, like, we really do need to talk about this, because I was hearing one thing from the fire people, one thing from our representative, and we really needed to get to a point where we say, like, we need some assurance that this isn't going to happen. And I think it will always benefit our city to have more communication between municipalities and the state as a whole. And that's been a goal of mine. I think I just got elected to the ULCT board again for another 2 years. I think that's been a really important role to make sure that North Logan, but also Valley-wide, we have a voice in that legislation, in any sort of legislation that's coming down. We'll be, among the first to know. And I take that role really seriously to then alert everyone else around us in the Valley, which is why we got an audience with Casey, because he'd been harangued by all the mayors. So,
Mayor, do we have a sense for the appetite of our legislators for that kind of unstructured quality time with, I don't know if that means with you or with a larger body, but either way, do we know
Um, what their appetite is. I think, I don't know. I can't necessarily speak to that
Okay.
with Mike Peterson. But so I don't know.
Okay.
As far as Senator Wilson goes, he's been really responsive to me every time I reach out, but I think that might take some thought to say, you know, how can we interact outside of official
Yeah.
capacities?
I was just thinking, like, we do those land use workshops within the municipalities sometimes, and it would be great to have them
Yeah.
present there for some or all of that.
Yeah, I think we could extend more invites for sure. So,
Are there things that they're doing where we need to go to them? Or do we want to invite them to new things that we're doing? Or some of both, because their schedules are probably pretty full. But if they have outreach activities that they're already doing, then maybe we just need to,
I'm not
Well-
aware of those.
Okay.
So, so I think we're gonna have to do it on our end and maybe look for reciprocity there. That's kind of my sense of it. And then just kind of a piggyback to that, we need to start earlier than during the session because all of the bill drafting happens far earlier than, you know, January, mid-January. So,
So like right now would probably be a good time.
That's a big- yeah.
mhm. E-bike stuff, e-motorcycle. Okay. Alan, do you want to go with yours? Yes, you do.
Scott's is much better than mine, so.
He'll play cleanup.
Um, I'll jump down here. Did you say he'll play cleanup or I'll play cleanup?
I can go. Am I next on the list?
Mine ties into yours, so if you
Okay,
want to go
yeah.
first.
One of the biggest takeaways on the UDOT front is that just about every community has beef and frustrations with UDOT, so we're not alone in that. But they did want to try to help everybody understand the best chain of communication to get a hold of UDOT, how to interact with them and interface with, you know, the juggernaut that is the DOT. One of the things that I took away is that the Utah Transportation Commission is essentially the decision makers at UDOT. They control the budgets, where the money flows. And we have a local representative here in Logan for our Region 1 who was just appointed to that commission. That's Paul Borup from Logan. He's a Logan City resident, former Cache County Commissioner. So might want to make some acquaintances there if we don't know him already and just kind of interact, help him understand. I'm sure he's well aware of Logan and Cache Valley, North Logan, all of our municipalities' needs. But that was interesting. UDOT's going to do a better job of communicating to everybody how to best interface with them. You know, what are the chains of communication that go up the rungs of the ladder? Some innovative housing ordinance. It was interesting. Both Ephraim and Heber are considering 3,000 square foot lots. Those are absolute postage stamp lots, so small that, you know, it makes you wonder if you should probably just go to a townhome, you know, an attached product.
I
at
hear
that
there are
point.
townhomes with that kind of square footage of floor space.
Condos, yeah.
Seriously, you should look it up. I was surprised.
Does that have to do with just getting HUD financing on them?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's a way to try to get more units on smaller space and still call it single family detached. But honestly, when you're that small, you have zero usable green space in a yard, a fenced in yard. You don't even have enough room to put a trampoline in the backyard for your kids. It's very small. So usually when you go below, you know, 5,000 square feet, you really should just go to an attached housing product. But there's communities out there that are experimenting with it. Both Heber and Ephraim are both doing that. It was also interesting to see that South Jordan is kicking in nearly $100,000 in subsidy for affordable housing units through their RDA. That seems unattainable to a community of our size to try to subsidize a single unit with $100,000. That was crazy to hear. South Jordan must be pulling in a lot of money in through their RDA. But that's one mechanism that some folks on the Wasatch Front are resulting to. Park City, most folks recognize Park City is probably the trailblazer in everything that has to do with deed restrictions And most folks use their deed restrictions as a template. It's been well vetted over many years. A lot of legal counsel has gone into the creation of their deed restrictions. South Jordan uses Park City's deed restriction, or they used it as a template. They tweaked it to their needs. And so we'll likely look to Park City and borrow their brain trust on that. And that kind of leads into housing authorities. One of the things that in that particular discussion, I asked a question specifically, how common is it in Utah for a housing authority to accept deed restrictions from their municipalities and operate in perpetuity those restrictions? And it's very common. There's 19 housing authorities in the state so far. And what I took away is it's very difficult to establish a housing authority, but we do have one here in Cache Valley through BRAG. So that's Bear River Association of Governments. Right now, they primarily just manage the federal tax credit programs for deeply affordable housing. But we need to chat with them and see if we can expand their scope and see if they'd be willing to take on deed restrictions for owner-occupied units, attainable units, anything in the future that we're able to negotiate here and have that entity be our enforcement mechanism. Park City, they right now are their own housing authority. They did that out of necessity. Essentially, their city council just puts the housing authority hat on when they're making housing authority decisions. And they have the resources and the staff to do that. But even though they have the resources, they still don't want to be in that position because they don't want to mix the politics with the housing authority and some of those decisions. So our kind of marching orders there is to go chat with BRAG, see what our existing agreement is with them. If there is an agreement, we may need to explore an interlocal agreement to expand those responsibilities. Yeah, those are my key takeaways.
Thanks, Scott. Scott Bennett, do you want to give us yours?
The first one I went to was talking about grants, and the state of Utah has a website specifically for municipalities to see what grants are available. And they also wanted cities to get with their local businesses because the state of Utah has a website specifically for local businesses to help encourage them to apply for the grants that they can find on that website. Second thing, so many cities had problems with truth in taxation this year that they went over the steps of that, and just wanted to warn us that the legislature will probably be making some changes before the next truth in taxation. And so we just need to watch.
To make it easier, right?
Yeah, sure.
Much.
I'm just kidding.
I think the concern is that there's no appeal. There's just someone that's unclear who says, yes, you fit the bill, or no, you did not.
And if you don't, yeah, there's no appeal to it.
Yeah.
So
that can be really problematic.
And then the next, just like we did with audit committee to formalize that, upcoming, we'll need to formalize an AI policy. And then there's training through the State of Utah website for things for the city council, the Open Meetings Act. Well, they also have a training for municipal officials that has to be performed at least once every term. And then there's other trainings, finance training. And so they are trying to get information out about being able to go onto their website and do training.
Okay. All right, Alan, you made us save you for last.
I'll go quickly through a few of these. There was a good training on meetings. I think the mayor was in attendance as well. A few things we need to do. These are more like to-do list items. One is just change the YouTube link and truncate it. We are the only city that live streams our meetings, but we need to make that more accessible and easier for people to find. And that's creating a generic link and putting a truncated link for that. Hold more workshops was a recommendation. A consent portion of the meeting was a recommendation. by the city that was giving the presentation. It seemed to work well. It worked well tonight. Ordinances and resolutions do a roll call vote. Thank you, Mayor, for doing that this evening. A way for council where they can bring up issues to staff. That's always the communication aspect. And so just a way for the council, as you're hearing things from residents, how do you report those or get those to the staff where things can actually take place? Because in a meeting, dialogue usually isn't the most productive in a city council meeting. I always call it the toilet paper principle. I'm sorry, but when I was first in Parks and Rec, a council member told me that at Elk Ridge Park, one of the restrooms didn't have toilet paper. And I said, okay, we can get that taken care of ASAP. I said, when was this? And she said, 2 weeks ago. Things like that in a public meeting don't help. And so the correct thing to do at that point was just to reach straight out to the city council or to the staff member and say, this is an issue, we need this fixed. Some things on HR, some things on taxes. It was a very informative portion. Chrissy or Carrie Nakamura always does a fantastic job regarding the taxation. It was amazing. There were a lot of smaller cities from the valley that were sitting around us that had no idea what half of these taxes were or whether they had them implemented or what was taking place. But there's things that we just need to clarify within ours. Are we charging the minimum, the maximum? What are we looking at in each of these smaller type of taxation areas? And are we actually receiving those based off of our zip code and city name? Those are two things we also need to look at. Economic development, we should look into an inland port option. Not saying we do it, but look into what the pros and cons of that might be regarding the area surrounding the airport. Impact fees, I think we already knew these rules, but they did clarify there's no impact fee that can be charged for an internal ADU. I think we already knew that. But then on external ADUs, it's kind of gray or vague. But basically, you can charge a Parks and Streets impact fee, but you can't charge a water and sewer in North Logan City because we require the external ADU to connect to the existing service line and lateral. So there isn't an addition of the actual capacity, just more people living on the lot. And so that's maybe a negative of that requirement, but it does help. It keeps we call it a zoning cheat. It keeps people from just coming in and putting an ADU on every lot very quickly. City center, the overarching theme, they had a fantastic presentation on different city centers, but they just said city center is where you go to get ice cream. Literally, they said, if you do not have that component, that's where people need to go. And so what they're really emphasizing is a gathering place and having a food component to it. And so if you think about that, and we're looking at our city center, I think we did capture that. CRA and being proactive were two other points of that. That's I think one of the flaws of the past, not that the plans themselves were flaws in the past of a city center, but it was the lack of proactiveness that really kind of has killed the last few designs that have taken place. Essay contest. Emily loves when I bring this up. Every year we see communities that they're great communities, but they'll talk about, we have an event in our town and it brings out 5,000 people or 10,000 people. I mean, that's about every other community in the valley. We could say, well, Pioneer Day, we bring out 20 to 30,000 people. Pumpkin Walk, we bring 60 to 70 across all the Pumpkin Days events, 60 to 70,000 people. We need the schools to really implement this and do the essay program.
I'm talking to the fourth grade teachers at Greenville.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Thank you. We just need to look at it. It's a cakewalk for North Logan City. Any kid that writes about anything in North Logan City, they should win the essay contest. It's that easy.
It's the only reason I got on the board.
Thank you.
You're not biased at all.
No.
It's fantastic, and it provides money for the child that wins. It brings some.
You know, it
notoriety
is
to the
actually
city.
really fun to see Alan's disappointed face when Gunnison gets up there again.
I didn't mention specific cities, but even the city I grew up in is a city of 80,000 people. There's nothing I could write about in that city. They have no gathering. There's nothing that's iconic about the city. I don't know what you would write about the city other than it's big. So that's one thing that we need to look into. A few other things. One other thing I did want to bring up though, and that is that our mayor, through a very competitive process, was nominated to be on the board of the Utah League of Cities and Towns. And the reason I'm showing this, it's hard to see this, but she is up there, one of the few representatives from the entire state of Utah to be on that board. The reason that is so important for a community like North Logan, and really for the entire valley, is because during the legislative sessions that we talked about, where bills get started, some of them with good intentions, but they end up, the output says that in the last two sessions, these are examples of bills that were proposed in each of the last two sessions, where you could have 4 lots on any lot throughout the city, no rules. You can go to any lot in North Logan City and put 4 lots on that lot.
Subdivide it into 4.
Subdivided into 4, it doesn't matter. The other bill was you could come and you could put a 5,000 square foot lot anywhere in the city. No rules. You can just come and do that. These were both probably 50% of the way through the approval process. Probably 75% on the 5,000 square foot lot anywhere in the city. And so these things have legs. The other one is the state just taking over zoning in every city across the entire state of Utah.
That is proposed every single year.
That's proposed every year. And it seems to have legs. That's the scariest part of a bill like that. The reason I'm bringing this up and the reason it's so important, and hats off to the mayor for getting on this board through that competitive process, is because the league board is one of the entities that goes and lobbies and works with the legislators to say, hey, do you realize the implications of some of these bills? They might have a good intention, but they would be very far-reaching and could do significant damage to a lot of cities across the state. Case in point was the fire bill that had a fantastic intention from Casey Snyder, but the state agency that took it too far. It was going to have a $700 fee for half of the city of North Logan residents every year. Those are the types of things that this board can help out. So hats off to the mayor. Just give a plug for that. But the league does provide a fantastic training and lobbying with the state legislators to make sure that bills that are being passed don't have significant harm to the residents throughout the state.
Yeah, I think it gives us an outsized voice in those bills, and I think it's an important way that we can communicate with our legislators. So thank you for taking the time to go, and yeah, I thought it was a really good time this year. Okay, let's move on to updates on our general plan and our city center master plan.
Okay, just a quick update. So the Planning Commission, they do not have a meeting tomorrow. It is the APA Utah Conference, but the Planning Commission does have a public hearing scheduled for the 23rd. It's our anticipated last public hearing on the zoning text amendments associated with our general plan. And there's a good likelihood that there's a recommendation provided to council after that meeting on the 23rd. So likely the council will have an opportunity to review this formally in November. And there's still a few minor things that we're working on in the code as far as cleanup and just, some formatting and those types of things. So, but I would recommend if anybody wants to go through anything, come and chat with us, over the next couple of weeks. It's a good time now before we really do start to button this up. And everybody understands this is a big project. There's a lot of things in there that hopefully are in alignment with the general plan, and we'll make some adjustments as time goes along when we find maybe some inconsistencies. But now's the time. Come and chat with us. Take a minute to read through. It's quite a bit of material and content, but it's coming to council here shortly, hopefully in November. Any questions on that?
Oh, thanks, Scott.
Yep.
All right, and let's get updates on our water capital improvement projects. Can we put our handprints in the tank?
You can on the roof. We've already talked about it. So when we do the roof, you're welcome to do it.
Could Alan put his entire body on the roof?
My face.
Yes. Yes, he can.
Thanks, cuz.
On solo.
So as Alan's pulling up, we did, before we get to this one, we did finish pour 4 of 5 in the contact chamber at the mouth of Green Canyon on Tuesday morning. So we have one more that'll be towards the end of the month once we get the that last wall has to meet, it has to get hard enough for us to pour the roof on. And then last night, Alan can pull up those pictures again. We did pour the floor at the tank. That pour started about, the first truck arrived about 1:20 a.m. and we finished the last truck at about 11 o'clock this morning. So
What's the diameter on
concrete
that, just to put it in perspective?
160 feet
So it's 160 feet across.
and 6 inches deep. It was 570 yards of concrete. So 57 trucks came through last night and into the morning. Yeah, so that's all done. First pour is done. There's some pictures if you want to look through them. It was a long night, but then the next ones will be, so they'll tension the pad through the weekend. They'll be out there tightening the rods that go through the concrete to post tension, and then the walls and the pillars will be the next pours. Those will be a little bit smaller. They won't be quite as big of a pour. We won't have another pour of that size until we do the roof, and so that won't be until probably March when we do the roof. And yeah, you can put your handprints in the roof. So
I'm in. Okay.
Yeah.
What about updates on our civic center?
Sorry, I didn't put a video. There's a walkthrough, and I'll put that in for the next city council. Trent provided a walkthrough of the building right now. They're literally starting the painting of the area B, they call it, or the elbow, and then they're working on the community center right now, which they've started painting. We're about a quarter of the way through that, painting the new community center portion. Like I mentioned before, Trent has been working really hard on just the transfer of the books, how that's going to take place, utilizing all the other departments. It's a very clever way of doing it, but hats off to Jordan and Trent for coming together and looking at ways where maybe we have some times that I wouldn't say are down, but less intensive if it's not snowing. And then they can use those staff to go over and help out with that process. So that'll take place in the coming weeks. We want to have it done by the employee Christmas party. I just don't know if it's going to be ready. We do have the high school as a backup for that.
We'll keep bugging them.
Yeah.
Might have to sneak in there.
The only other thing is just the final designs for the exterior, and then just some of the fundraising component that's still taking place.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alan. And now let's get our updates because we haven't heard from you guys much. Jordan, anything for you? Scott? Alan?
Just some events coming up. We went over these at the beginning. Thanks to everyone for going, who could attend the Utah League of Seasoned Towns Murder Mystery Dinner already took place. But then the Pumpkin Run and the Pumpkin Hole are this Saturday. You can register. I think the registration closes soon. You can go to day of for the Pumpkin Run though. Without registering, you just don't get a shirt. The Pumpkin Walk is October 16th through the 21st. The Pumpkin Palooza, the pickleball tourney, Mayor's Dinner, Pumpkin Coloring Contest.
Alan, let me interrupt you right there. If you guys want to have the VIP tour, I think Chief would be happy to, like, if you want to meet us there, what time do you think we'll head over there? Like 7:30? 7-ish. So if you want to come that Saturday at around 7, then you can have the skip the line tour for a very low price that we'll tell you at the door.
And when she says skip the line tour,
It's huge.
That's huge. That line can.
It's also super cool. Like it's just a really it was super fun last year. I took several mayors with me and it was really cool to have them see it. So we'd love to have you guys. 18th at 7.
Yeah, that's a Saturday. That line on Saturday and Monday nights, depending on the weather of those nights, can be an hour and a half wait just to get into the Pumpkin Walk. And so
I mean, I probably watched that little girl selling beignets last year. She probably made an easy 500 while I was waiting in line. And I honestly applaud her. They were also very delicious. So.
So Pumpkin Coloring Contest, Pumpkin Carnival, and then the Pumpkin Toss and Pumpkin Drop. Pumpkin Toss is through the ASME, the USU Mechanical Engineering Club. They come with trebuchets to launch the pumpkins, and then the Pumpkin Drop is the new one that we added this last year, where they bring a crane and they drop it from about 200 feet, and it's a 700-pound pumpkin this year that they'll drop onto a minivan. It's amazing.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
and the general election on November 4th.
Okay. Do you know when we'll be getting those ballots for general election, did you say?
Isn't it next week?
It'll go out. Yeah, it should go out before the 20th of October, so.
Okay. I'll just, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, and Mayor, it's your, so when the newsletter comes out, it's yours for
Oh, I
November.
gotta get on that. Okay.
Mayor, can I just get clarification on
Sure.
that VIP thing? That, it is already open at that time, right? The pumpkin walk, so.
Yeah, so if you meet at the city offices, then chief will give us a ride over in vehicles
Don't have to
and
walk.
you just get to the front of the line.
I mean,
I see, okay.
Penny,
I
this
got
is
you.
exactly up your
Okay.
alley.
I'm not used to, okay, I'm tracking, thank you.
Okay, I just an update from last night or from Monday. We did have our COG meeting, just so you guys know you've approved this, but we have a joint project with Logan City on Second East. We have a joint project with Cache County on 12th East and 3100 North that we're participants in, and then Cache County has, well, I guess we have the roundabout and then the road just north of there on 12th East and around 3100. So we have all three of those projects in the works. I think they're all really great projects. So I'm hopeful that those will be successful. Through the efforts of staff, we were ranked number 1 after safety scores were put in for that Second East project. So those are really crucial funds, and these are really big projects that are really important for the entire valley. So we'll keep you updated on those. We have our rankings due on Friday, and then a meeting 20th, I can't remember, 20 something later this month to get the results of that, and then the mayors kind of hash it out and ratify it that day. So I'll keep you updated on that. Anything else from the council?
Oh, the only thing I do have, I've gotten quite a few questions on how long the survey for the potential name change of North Logan is running. Okay, perfect. And then we even have somebody here tonight who was hoping we could maybe discuss results. Do we have a potential time when we would potentially talk about that?
I'll speak to
put it
that a
on the
little bit. So that survey was kind of intended, it's unofficial. I think those surveys can kind of get out of control after a while because we didn't place any restrictions on the number of responses that you could submit as one person. But really for me, the metric there was to say, is this something that people want to just dismiss out of the gate? Or is it something that we should continue to talk about for the next, like for months and even a year from now? So this is not something that we're going to do, in a lackadaisical way, like where we just say, okay, and also we're not going to look at the survey results and use those as we would an official survey. So
No, I guess it's true. I guess I was more looking of like, I was more curious of like, where are people even leaning? Because I know you'd asked.
I think before it got kind of out of hand, the more vocal portion of the city said absolutely not, don't do it. But the results of like my DMs and then also the survey itself was a 70-30 split. So 30% North Logan, 70% is something else. So whether that's Greenville or whether that's I can't even think of the crazy ones that we got. South Park.
South Park was a
It
good one.
would be nice. I feel like since we're getting kind of mixed results, are we planning this year to do like end of year well-being of North Logan survey? Like a more official one where, like you can
We're
always.
not doing that through USU, but so we are going to be talking about it at our later October meeting
Oh,
at
okay.
length. So if it's
Perfect.
okay, I'd love to kind of combine all of those comments
No,
to that meeting, and we'll really well advertise that, but we're going to be talking about EDA motorcycles at that meeting and then also the name change at that meeting. And that certainly will not be the last time that we talk about it in an official way. So, because again, if I'm choosing, I would just not even address this at all. But I do want to make sure that we have a robust discussion on this. So I think that's the plan, if that's okay. we'll see you next time. And then feel free to talk to any of us too, after the meeting.
I know this was
Alan,
your
I'm-
favorite meeting, so thank you for coming.
It could even be further down the road. I mean, because this, I think people need to understand this. This is not an urgent thing that we are flying through by the seat of our pants. Like, this is just information gathering. Some other methods that we've used to just gather information. And again, this doesn't determine anything, but just for fun, we'll bring this question up around staff. So we brought it up with staff. So out of 80 individuals in the staff, we brought this up just for fun. I said, well, what would everyone want the name to be if you just had your choice? And I just gave them the two. I said North Logan or Greenville. Is 98% Greenville from the staff. So out of 80 individuals that work for the city, it was 98% Greenville. One other interesting thing at the Business Alliance Luncheon, where we host all the businesses throughout North Logan City, I asked this question and explained it very thoroughly. They said this will cost businesses money. If to change anything, to change this, you will have to change stationery, you'll have to change business cards, you have to change your website. There's an inherent cost in every one of these things. It was a 70-30 split. 70% wanted Greenville, 30% wanted North Logan. So it's worth a lengthy discussion just based off of some of the metrics. that are coming
I
down
mean,
the pipe.
absolutely. I was just curious if and when. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. There was one other thing about that. I don't know, but we will be talking about that quite a bit. Yeah, sure. You want to just come to the microphone so that we can have
Please
it on
come.
record?
Just state your name. Oh, hold on, it doesn't look like it's on.
The batteries are probably.
Yeah, whether the battery's actually working or not is a 50-50.
Tim, you can use one of ours though. Yeah.
We'll go here. I was just going to ask Tim Campbell. I was just going to ask, maybe one thing that you could consider as you go through this with the public is a little more explanation and background of why, from my perspective as a citizen, this is a major pain in the butt and don't want anything to do with it, And I'm not here trying to run the city, and so there's plenty of things that I'm not seeing. So I am curious to understand the other side. The numbers you just said, like, boggle my mind. Like, who in their right mind? What is going on? So anyway, if there were more explanation, more ways that I could understand the other side of it, that would be helpful, I think, for the rest of the public who might have opinion like me.
Okay.
Anyway.
Tim, do you have a suggestion of how you'd like that information given to you? Like, do you want it as part of the newsletter? Do you want it as part of that? Because that's the hard thing is like, how do we?
I think the hardest thing is people don't read it. Like, so we have a preamble to the survey itself that clearly people are not reading. And I did a reel on it that we posted on both the city website or city Facebook and mine. And I don't know how else to get that information out.
Yeah,
It's
but
also
if
in
you
the
had a suggestion-
newsletter.
And
So
in the
the
newsletter. So
Newsletter, it's a
I don't know
paragraph
what
that
else to do because
questions that come up.
I'm finding that people are saying, why would you do this? And I have a 2-minute video that's saying, here's why we would consider this.
Yeah, I don't know if I have good suggestions on an answer. I saw the reel and I saw the newsletter. And both of those, I think, were little bits of introduction. Our conversation just before the meeting went a lot further, I think, with challenges that you faced that weren't explained as well in some of those. And again, I think there's more to it. If you're coming up with numbers like 80% or 70% even of people, in my mind, like, I was going to be blown away if you got 10% of people in favor of changing the name, right? That's where I'm coming from. Just like, yeah, anyway. So I don't know if I have a great suggestion on how to get it across, but
I think
a way to dig into more
inevitably,
to meet the challenges that you're actually facing, the details on those. But
I think inevitably we will have a meeting dedicated to discussion on this. So we'll figure that out. We're also trying to address in any way that we can some of the tax collection issues that we're experiencing with that confusion between the two cities. So I know that Vicky has a meeting with the tax commission tomorrow to talk about that. So short of changing our name, we're trying to address some of the issues. And I shared this, I'm trying to think who I shared it with, but the person that interviewed me with Herald Journal didn't realize that he lived in North Logan. And that to me is, he thought he was a Logan resident. And that to me is the quintessential issue that we face all the time. How can you have city pride if you don't know where you live? So,
And see, I just don't even understand that too. How do you not know where you live? But, like,
Tim,
that,
can
I can't answer that question.
yeah.
Can I ask a quick follow-up? We'd like to understand your position better too. You said that this would be a huge pain for you. Can you help us understand how, like, what's the
Yeah,
cause of the
well,
pain?
I mean, for me, so what I see, and you know, I may be wrong, right? But I mean, just the time spent changing addresses everywhere, it adds up, and then multiplied by every single citizen. You know, I mean, my own family, it's 5 of us too, right? So I gotta go figure out. Anyway, that's one part of it. But the other part is just the tax. You know, like I have to go redo everything for the city, right? And I like, you're gonna spend my tax dollars that way, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe part of another thing about it is, you know, can you provide clarification on how changing the name actually resolves some of the problems that you're facing, you know? Like with the tax collection things, is it really taking a name change to fix those problems, or are they still gonna be there just because people are people and don't do things right, you know?
Yeah.
Good
And
These
those are
all legitimate concerns. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing them to our attention.
And those are some things we're fleshing out in the meantime, what it would cost to change it, what we're losing annually, like trying to put a number on what we're losing annually. And then, and the cost to change is kind of difficult because it's time, you know, it's staff time. So, but yeah, definitely. Well, this is just the beginning of the conversation. And I've said this before, but I think this is a really good exercise to say, can we discuss an issue without it being an angry discussion? And I hope that the assurance people have is that we're not going to do anything unilaterally. We're not going to do anything super fast. And so like I said, this initial survey is just a threshold determination. Is this something that we should continue to talk about? So anyway.
That sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Kenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, you guys.